69-year-old Jimmy Morabito has already pleaded not guilty to 4 charges, including dangerous driving causing death over the triple fatality. Barbara Cheadle of Taree and 2 granddaughters, Rebecca and Jessica Campbell of Valentine, were killed in the crash in March 2004. Morabito will stand trial in Newcastle District Court on May 29.
In recent weeks, around $20,000 of ratepayers' money has been spent on a TV campaign asking ratepayers for, well, more money. If councillors vote for their pay increase tomorrow night, the Lord Mayor's allowance will jump a few $1,000s to almost $79,000, while councillors will increase their purse by almost $1,000 to just over $20,000.
It's not a pay rise, it's an allowance, and it's never a good time. But nonetheless, we've got to be sensible enough to know that people who do these sorts of jobs incur expenses, and that you need some sort of allowance to cover that.
It seems some ratepayers are becoming a little sensitive when it comes to matters of the hip pocket.
They're asking us to pay more so that they can keep the city running, and yet they're giving themselves an extra allowance. I think this is very wrong, and I think the whole situation needs to be looked into very carefully.
But if they're doing the job, they deserve the pay. It's a thankless job, I suppose.
The proposed increase has been approved by the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, but that doesn't mean councillors have to take it.
Councillors spend a lot of time, much more than the amount of money they get in an allowance, and indeed so do I. As I said, I do this as a full-time job, and the amount of money involved, I think, is probably justifiable in every cent.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
If first impressions really do count, then these job seekers have earned themselves a big tick when it comes to punctuality. Some arrived 3 hours before their interview and once past the doors had just 5 minutes to present themselves as future employees.
I just think it sort of suits my personality. I like to work with guests and with computers and things. tourist, meeting new people, getting myself somewhere in the world.
It's taken almost 20 years to reach this stage, and in May the $50 million Crown Plaza Hunter Valley will welcome its first guests. It's hoped a large number of those doing the welcoming will be from the local area, and while there are 200 positions to fill, others in the region will be called on to assist in roles like the all-important stocking of bars and fridges.
We'll be buying food and of course wine locally, and then also other consumables that we require in terms of laundry cleaning and so on. The list is endless.
The development will push the number of people working in the local wine and tourist industry beyond 8,000.
The unemployment situation has eased considerably in Cessnock, and that's due to most of the jobs coming out of the wine tourist industry.
Colleen West, NBN News.
It's not till you tip some bright purple dye into the water that you can actually see just where the rips and currents are flowing. Even on a seemingly calm day at the beach, it's surprising to see how quickly a rip can sweep from the shore out towards the breakers. It's the idea of Sydney lifeguard Rob Brander, who did a PhD on rips, making him a genuine doctor of the surf.
We use the dye. It doesn't have much scientific value really, other than just to show you where the rip is at, where it is and how fast the surface is flowing. But from an educational point of view, that's spectacular.
Dr. Brander is staging a series of surf science lectures in Newcastle over the next 2 months and says with so many people needing to be rescued as a result of being caught in rips, it's vital people understand the forces at work.
Well, rips exist to get the water back out to sea. When waves break and the water gets pushed to the beach, it's got to get back out somewhere. So rips take advantage of existing channels and troughs, and basically they're almost like rivers flowing offshore, rivers of the ocean if you like. And they're fairly narrow, and because they're narrow, they're concentrated and they flow quickly. And if you get caught in one, you're going to go out the back pretty quick.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
And getting home to this welcome is brilliant, you know, so hopefully next week it can be even bigger.
Central Coast couldn't have dreamt of a better start. Andre Gumprecht creating the opportunity that should never really have fallen so easily for Tom Pondulac. A terrible mistake gifting him a shot on goal. The Coast went for the throat. But once Adelaide settled, it was the Mariners forced to call all hands on deck. Denny Vukovic proving a hard man to break down, even though Adelaide threw everything at him. Chasing the game, it wasn't from lack of opportunity for the home side. The Mariners' defence called on time and again, with the last line holding firm to all challenges. Fernando Reck proving there was only centimetres between good luck and bad, as Adelaide simply couldn't net the goal they needed. It was desperation stuff as the Mariners made it 12 straight games without defeat. One more and the A-League Premiership will be theirs. Everything in practice had pointed to a big weekend for the pair of Hunter Yamaha riders, but the season opening race had barely begun when Brock Parkes was back in the pits. A clutch problem cutting his race horribly short. Teammate Kevin Curtin, though, proving the new Yamahas are right on the pace. It wasn't everyone's day. Curtin, though, pushing defending champion Sebastian Charpentier all the way. The veteran settling for second, but he'll be out to go one better at his home event this weekend at Phillip Island, where trials had the Yamaha clocking under the circuit's lap record. Rising Newcastle Jet star Tarek Elrich was part of the young Socceroos team that qualified for the Asian Youth Championships with a third win overnight. Surfing and Merriweather finished fourth in a countback at the Kira team's challenge on the Gold Coast. Luke Egan had the chance to win the title for his boyhood club in his heat, but the title eventually went to Byron Bay.
When I said I retired, this is all I do is represent my club, so it's good to come down and represent Merriweather, but didn't get any ways in that heat though.
And after round 10 of the Premier League Lawn Bowls, the best placed of the Hunter clubs is Maitland City, with Toronto Workers and Windale at the wrong end of the table. The Newcastle Jets have spruiked changes since the night their A-League season ended at Gosford 2 weeks ago. Of the playing roster, only 6 are off contract, and while Richard Johnson and Vaughan Coveney are considered key signings, the rest are shaping to face the axe as new blood is called on.
It's understood some players who are still contracted but saw limited game time this season may also be shown the door, but no official word was coming out of Jets headquarters today. Instead, club officials will meet with the team tomorrow morning before approaching players separately about their future.
In contrast, the Central Coast wouldn't dream of letting any of their squad go at the moment. Riding a wave of emotion, the squad is attracting attention for all the right reasons. Slotting home the match winner means business as usual for Tom Ponderlack this time of year, with Sunday's match his 6th consecutive domestic grand final.
Just take it as another game. I think the most important thing is to try and stay as relaxed as possible, and that's what we'll be doing this week. As you can see, the boys are having a good laugh today at training, and it's been very light and fun, so we'll be continuing that throughout the week.
Morisset is an area of Lake Macquarie earmarked for serious growth, with at least 2,000 extra residents expected in the next 10 years. For some, it could be a lakeside address on the Morisset Country Club golf course. Last night, Council voted to prepare a zoning amendment to the local environment plan that would allow a 305-home subdivision to be built around the golf course. While it's given in-principle support, the council is concerned the development proposal clusters the homes as far from the Morisset town centre as possible.
That is at odds with what we would normally be liking. We would be liking to get the residential development up into what we would call a walkable catchment from the town centre.
Developer Mirvac says its redevelopment proposal would also include upgrades to the 18-hole golf course and a contribution to the renovation of the clubhouse. Lake Macquarie Council hopes the development would mean better facilities and more members, giving the Morisset Country Club a much-needed financial lift.
They are struggling, and the club has been very important to our local community in Morisset, and if this can give it a boost, keep it alive and healthy and working for the local community, then I think it'll be a good outcome.
The developer hopes construction will start in mid-2007. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
Golf has always seemed to come that little bit easier to Nick Flanagan than for most, but his casual nature often hides the hard work that's helped shape his game. Since catapulting himself onto the world stage with the US amateur title 4 years ago, Flanagan has ridden the highs and lows of a pro, touring the world to earn a living.
Probably took a little easy when I first came out, and I worked really hard last year in the events that I did get into, and it's starting to pay off now. And
his new year is testament to that, with third at the Jacobs Creek highlighting a strong 5-week stint that's netted just over $100,000 and 8th on the Order of Merit. It's certainly eased the pressure for his upcoming assault overseas, which targets America's secondary tour, the Nationwide, from which Toronto's Nathan Green graduated with distinction to the rich US PGA this year.
if I can end up doing something very similar to what he's done in a couple of years' time, I'll be very happy.
And the young Aussie will return with confidence alongside some countrymen, keen to show the Americans a thing or two.
We're out there to win, and I think we're all capable of doing it. And looking forward to getting over there and putting a bit of intimidation on the boys, and hopefully getting a couple of wins.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Obesity is now reaching epidemic proportions in Australia. The latest figures from the Bureau of Statistics show that 62% of men and 45% of women are now classified overweight or obese, and unfortunately many of them don't even know it. For dietitian Claire Collins, these new figures come as no surprise.
We're seeing a reflection of the society we live in. We take all the shortcuts, nobody likes to move, and we like fast food, and unfortunately it's too high in fat and too high in calories.
And what's even more alarming is that according to New South Wales health data, those of us living in the Hunter are even more likely to be overweight or obese than the state average. Claire wants the people of the Hunter to make a lifestyle change to help prevent the risk of health problems such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease and cancer. She says unless we reverse the trend, our already overwhelmed health system will only get worse.
People don't believe that it can be so simple to turn your life around. If people would get up and exercise for 30 minutes a day and get their 5 serves of vegetables and switch to low-fat dairy, we wouldn't be seeing the problem we're seeing now.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Reigning Tidy Town winner Singleton mostly knows how to clean up after itself, but even an area in the running for a national award needs a bit of extra help.
It's won New South Wales Tidiest Town in 2005-2006, and with that it's very difficult in some ways to find rubbish to pick up, but I think people can always dig a little bit harder and find it.
More than 100 volunteers combed roadsides and parks in the township for Clean Up Australia Day, with 10 truckloads of rubbish transported to the local tip.
We'd prefer to say it's people going through town doing the tossing. I think if you have a look at the area on the main highway coming into Singleton, on the dual highway there on the 100 kilometres, just take a look at the amount of rubbish that's thrown out.
And that statement's been backed up by a national survey which has found motorists are Australia's worst litter bugs. The Keep Australia Beautiful Litter Index showed almost half of the country's litter was found on highways and car parks. Coastal areas are also commonly misused as community trash cans, with dozens of bags of litter pulled from the shores of Newcastle Harbour today. When new legislation comes into effect in May, the maximum penalty for littering will increase to $2,200. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.
Travelling the world for most of the year, Kevin Curtin made the most of his hometown event, with wife Michelle joining him on the grid. Alongside him, though, at start time was teammate Brock Parks. But when the green light flashed, it was world champion Sebastian Charpentier they both had to catch. Curtin was determined not to let the Honda man out of his sights, shadowing him for the opening few laps. And when Parks found his pace, he only added to the mix up front. After sizing up the Frenchman on lap 3, Curtin made his move the next time around. With Parks pressuring, the Yamaha teammates made something of an Aussie sandwich to put the squeeze on Charpentier. And he responded in kind, taking back the lead a few laps later. But Curtin was showing no signs of letting up. As riders fell around them, all eyes were on the front as this race boiled down to just 2. With laps running out, it was Curtin pressing again, but an overshot corner ruined a grandstand finish. It gave Charpentier the break he needed, making it 2 from 2.
I thought maybe I might have been able to do it, but once the grip went away from the rear, it was like riding on dirt.
A podium finish for both Hunter riders, though, pleasing as the championship now heads to Europe.
Dwight York takes Clark one way and then the other. Squares it up, the shot! Sydney draw first blood in the grand final. Steve.
Very quick actually, yeah, all in about a minute. Just crash, bang, out the car, run, gone.
This is how most of us remember the Pasminco lead and zinc smelter at Bullaroo. It ceased operating in September 2003, and with demolition of the plant now well advanced, attention is turning to new uses for the privately owned site.
Residential, some extension to commercial areas, but mainly light industrial, and also the possibility of a linked road through to the Cardiff Industrial Estate.
Until recently, children who lived near the smelter suffered from dangerously high levels of lead in their blood. But now new housing is planned for part of the site, the first new residential development being considered for the suburb in years. Councillors will vote tonight on rezoning part of the land for housing and other parts for a light industrial park.
Much of the material will be capped and left on site because it just cannot be economically removed. However, the areas that we're looking at are much less contaminated, either insignificantly or they can be quite easily remediated for use for that higher purpose.
Tonight's vote is the first stage in an overall strategy to find new uses for the entire site.
This is one occasion when not everything is rosy in Jesmond Park, an area the size of a football oval surrounding the children's playground at the western end of the Bushland Park is out of bounds after Newcastle Council's tree assessment program discovered safety problems with some of these 20 trees.
There's half a dozen trees within this area that have been identified as high hazard. They're essentially quite hollow inside a lot of those trees, and what we've decided to do is to fence off the area for tree falls. You can't be 100% sure which way it might go.
The report also identified it's not just a public safety issue. A solution will require council to take into consideration the area's native inhabitants.
And the trees are ideal habitat. There's a number of possums in there. Before we make any final decision what we're going to do, we're going to have a look to see whether there's any other habitat in there. But ultimately we might have to have some possums relocated.
Newcastle councillors will inspect Jesmond Park on Wednesday to discuss with staff what needs to be done to make the trees safe, with the aim of reopening the playground as soon as possible. Gary Blair, NBN News.
They're precious packages that can cost a small packet for families. Finding childcare in the Hunter, particularly for those under the age of 2, can be a struggle, and that's without paying for it. Australia's peak welfare watchdog, the Australian Council of Social Service, wants the federal government to scrap plans for a 30% childcare tax rebate in favour of a system that would expand childcare benefit payments. That would mean government subsidies are paid weekly. The proposal has been welcomed in the Hunter, along with plans to deliver 20 hours a week of state-funded preschool education for all children a year before they start school.
Increasingly, children are starting school at age 5 and they've already fallen behind because they haven't been to preschool, and it's the children from low-income families who are the ones who are falling behind.
And while a proposal to reassess the allocation of childcare places across the country has received the thumbs up, plans to publish recommended childcare fees so parents can compare cost and quality has raised questions.
Be done on a regional basis, because in some areas, of course, it is more costly to set up a childcare service than in others.
For those who love to drop a line, the threat of being locked out of a favourite fishing spot is almost too much to bear. The New South Wales government is working its way along the coast, declaring marine parks, with the Port Stephens Great Lakes carve-up about to come out for public comment. Fishermen say they're happy to comply if there's solid science to back up any restrictions, not just the green lobby.
We want the marine parks. What we don't want is to be locked out of them for no apparent reason.
Groups like Eco Fishers say no part of the coast will be untouched.
But the big park is next year, and that will run from Newcastle to Wollongong. Now, this particular park is a huge park, and it involves a lot of people. But the other factor is too, eventually, that all these parks will link up. They do have bioregions that run from the Queensland border to the Victorian border.
For many commercial fishermen affected by the marine parks, it's crunch time as they weigh up government offers to buy back their licences.
Well, a lot of them will consider it, but whether they're going to get enough out of it to meet their future commitments, I'm very doubtful.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's been business as usual for Knights players who don't have much longer to wait to get their season underway amid a sea of speculation on the coaching issue.
That hasn't bothered us at all. Our preparation has been really good.
The best ever for Milton Thaiday. Limited to light training today, he'll start at fullback for the first game, having completed his first genuine pre-season. After joining mid-season last year from club competition on the Far North Coast, Thaiday proved a real buy. But with the benefits of this preparation, bigger things are expected.
Maintain my spot, that's probably the biggest thing for me, and to stay injury-free.
There's some, including former Australian player Matthew Johns, who believe if he can, then representative honours are well in the frame. Thaiday has already represented New South Wales in rugby union, but unlike his time in a TARS jumper, it's a maroon one he'd been in line for. Now he's back in league circles.
Queensland, born and bred. I'm pretty sure I played my first A-grade game up there, so being a true Queenslander, I'd like to play for them.
The team to play Parramatta will be announced tomorrow with no real surprises expected, with the only battle looming for the final spot on the interchange bench. Jim Callanan, NBN News. Getting sacked by Newcastle has proved the best thing for one-time captain Matthew Bingley. Still, with strong business ties to the region, he's plied his trade with Perth and now Sydney FC since he was let go, and he's won a premiership with both. Homegrown player Robbie Middleby also headed south this season, and while he only saw the last few minutes of action in the decider, it still adds up to a championship that will long be shared with his Newcastle mentor Ian Crook, who assisted at Sydney this season. Closer to home, and the Phoenix Rangers have celebrated their promotion to the top grade with a 2-0 victory. The opening match of the NBN Soccer League pre-season competition doubling as their first official game in the top grade, after they were controversially denied promotion a season earlier. Defender Justin Eli, though, will have to wait a little longer, his season now in doubt after wrecking his knee. In Premier League lawn bowls, Windale won 2 of the 3 rinks but still lost on overall points at the weekend. Maitland didn't come close, but better news for the Torres and Toronto, with the newcomers downing Penrith in a big way. The Red Bills, in the all-black playing strip, got the better of Penrith with solid wins on all 3 rinks. It was the club's 3rd win of the competition and saw them start to head the right way on the ladder.
According to Labor councillor Barbara Gaudry, ratepayers are not convinced that council has done all it can to identify savings.
They believe that council has to have a good hard look at itself to see if there are any other ways that we can cut costs.
While controversial, she's identified one area to help rein in the budget.
At the same time as we're going out to the community asking them to pay an infrastructure levy, we're also spending millions of dollars on expanding the art gallery.
But John Tate warns if the levy is knocked on the head, essential council services will face the chop. Others have suggested revising council's 500 assets by either selling or leasing them before considering a rate hike.
There's no sense having empty assets and assets that aren't going to make any money. Let's sell them.
It's the old saying, don't sell the farm. And selling assets like that and putting that into day-to-day operations is really pouring money into where there are inefficiencies.
The council will tonight vote on a proposed restructure in the hope of cutting costs.
But with a saving of just $300,000, both the Lord Mayor and Councillor Buman don't believe the restructure goes far enough, as Council already spends $62 million on employee costs each year.
300,000 is nothing when you consider that we've employed an extra 67 staff since the year 2000.
It wasn't so much about protesting, rather the beginning of a long-term plan of attack. Last night, Toronto residents supported a push to stop an open-cut mine from going ahead near Awabba. Meetings like this are earmarked for most communities within a 10-kilometre radius of the site.
This is not just about the South Lake area, this is about the whole of Lake Macquarie.
A claim Centennial Coal won't support, awaiting the outcome of environmental impact studies before identifying which communities would be most affected.
We want to hear those concerns so that we can put it into our environmental assessment and make sure that we consider all the factors that need to be considered for this project.
Its future rests with the state, and to assist in the decision-making process, a new committee representing all parties will meet for the first time tomorrow night. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
It's normally shirts and ties at the Newcastle Business Club, but the men behind Surffest were keeping their clothing sponsor happy by wearing surf shirts at today's briefing. And that's critical in a town the size of Newcastle, where sponsorship dollars are few.
It's a very difficult market, and sponsorship is a very competitive market in the Hunter region. I mean, we've got other sporting organisations such as the Knights and the Jaegers competing for the sponsorship dollars that are out there. And we've, like those other organisations, really have to prove what we have as a product.
Organisers managed to secure two major sponsors at the 11th hour for this year's event, allowing it to be run as a 4-star international contest over 13 days, with as many as 800 competitors taking part in the festival. It's claimed that Surffest brings $2.5 million to the local economy each year, and the challenge is to secure long-term funding.
The sponsorship support from Billabong and Vodafone is only for 1 year for Surffest 2006. But we're confident the way that both those organisations have been speaking to us, and that their indications are that they are looking towards the long term for this festival, and we take that as a very strong comment and a vote of support for the event's future.
Surffest starts on March the 28th.
Dr. Andrew Catalaris admitted he lied to a contractor about what he'd asked him to plant on his property northwest of Dungog in the Hunter Valley, but denied he knew his actions were illegal. This cannabis crop was discovered by police on Australia Day last year, the accused saying he wanted to develop a product from the hemp crop that's fire and termite proof and could be used as a cheaper alternative to conventional building products. Dr. Catalaris today claimed that there's a defence of necessity in this case, arguing that the world's carbon dioxide levels are increasing rapidly and telling the court that planting crops like cannabis can help reduce these levels. When Crown Prosecutor Laurie Gray suggested Dr. Catalaris knew his actions were illegal because he didn't have a licence, he denied that, saying, "By my actions, I showed no conduct of a criminal matter." He also claimed everyone in that town knew about hemp, knew about its benefit and wanted to take part in an expanded industry. Dr. Catalaris said the crop he planted was the result of years of research, and if he didn't plant it, that research would have been lost. Closing submissions will be made tomorrow. Colleen West, NBN News.
Much like the Eels camp, Newcastle players just want to start playing for points, but all the pressure remains squarely on club administration over who'll be the new coach.
Mate, when we make a decision, you'll hear about it.
Is it a worry though? I mean, obviously that's
No, I'm not worried.
Coaches of both camps can see the irony of the first round fixture, but football is on their mind.
It's certainly created a lot of interest. I'm sure there would have been a lot of interest in this game anyway.
I've got no complaints from my end, and I think the players are looking forward to it, and their issues I guess we don't have much control over anyway. So.
He does on team selection, and there's a lot to like about Coach Hagan's side for the opening round. Regan Tanner winning the lock spot, but the combination of the halves and the hooker leaving a mouth-watering prospect.
Kurt and Andrew haven't played a lot of football together, nor has Danny Badiris, so I think that's the key for us to start the year well.
The club positively glowing, with player depth already showing.
And our reserve grade side's got 11 players that started in first grade last year, so pretty healthy all round. So competition across the park makes it good for us, I think.
The first home game to feature 5 matches on Saturday from junior grades right through to the main game. It's not often you see a car like this on the streets of Sydney. While it turned a few heads today, it's at this weekend's opening round of the National Rally Championship in Canberra that the Ford team wants a performance.
We need to take some more weight out of the car, add a bit more power, but we've got the platform here, and I think the fans are going to enjoy what they're going to see.
The weekend rally will also mark Ford's return to the domestic competition after some 25 years out, but it'll be gradual in terms of results. Another busy weekend of testing in Victoria proved they'll be close to the pace setters, but they all know this year is shaping as one focused on development.
If we can finish somewhere between 10th and 15th outright in the car in its current configuration, we'll be absolutely wrapped in that.
Guest expects the rear-wheel drive Focus to surprise a few this season, but can't wait for the real thing to begin.
It's going to take a little while. As I said, I don't think the fans will be too disappointed. It's such a spectacular car to watch, but they just need to have a little bit of patience and just watch us grow.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
This is the latest display of public opinion on Centennial Coal's plan for an open cut between Awabba and Currumbong. Opponents using a ceremony to mark the completion of work on the once controversial Mandalong underground pit to bring their latest concern to the attention of the Mineral Resources Minister prior to a meeting with him this afternoon. And Ian McDonald was quick to respond.
Mining companies from now into the future will have to go through these extensive consultation processes, do them right, do them cooperatively with the community.
So was the company, with Managing Director Bob Cameron vowing to consult and encouraging the West Lakes community to make themselves aware of information on the proposal.
All we would ask is that they also take the trouble to really acquaint themselves with the extent of this project, because it's not massive and it won't have a disastrous effect. It's actually quite a small project.
While the $220 million Mandalong colliery has been producing coal for the Araring and Vales Point power stations for 14 months, construction of infrastructure has only just been completed. Even though it aroused passions among future neighbours during the approvals process, the community response over the past year has been much different.
We certainly listened to community concerns here and I believe have largely met them, and we certainly have a good relationship with the community.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Set amongst peaceful bushland, it's a place where women who have suffered emotional, physical or sexual abuse can come to recover from their painful past. Eva House, an extension of the Mayumari Healing Program, officially opened its doors today, providing a program for women aged between 17 and 23 years old, where they can live in a safe environment for up to 3 months.
This is a life-saving place for people who want to live and don't want to give up and go on to drugs and alcohol and the other alternatives. So this is a place for people to turn their lives around.
The program will address childhood issues and provides abuse victims with the skills to deal with challenges and how to avoid further abuse. 23-year-old Bree Mallon today sharing her story after already participating in the Mayumari Healing Program.
For 5 days I came here and took another step every day, and when I left here I had friends that could support me, that have felt the same, that have been through similar circumstances, and now I live every day wanting to live my life and wanting to go on.
The program will begin in 2 weeks and will take in 6 young women. Kate Goscombe, NBN News.
Undoubtedly so. Even the most extensive planning and development would only see a proportion of the park become, in fact, a no-go zone.
This dying red ash tree in the Hunter Region Botanical Gardens is taking on a new life. Rather than being cut down and turned into wood chips, local Aboriginal artist Warramai Dates is turning it into a masterpiece in honour of his late father.
I've been asked by the Botanical Gardens to make some sort of contribution towards Aboriginal identity within this area. And this tree, I think, is the best way to highlight Garibaldi history.
Armed with a chainsaw and chisel, Warramai is carving out animals that are native to the region and Aboriginal elder figures that help tell the story of the area's local tribes. While tricky to bring to life, the eagle takes prime position.
He is one of the most respected, highly respected of all animals. He is peace and harmony within the land, the people.
With help from his family, who are trained in the art of wood carving, Warramai expects the artwork to be completed by June. Kate Goscombe, NBN News.
Carney couldn't put a foot wrong in Saturday's 25-6 victory over the Eels, but according to the club, he wasn't as poised during a disturbance at a hotel in Manly. Club officials have asked the Irishman for a statement on what happened. The club says the police were called to the hotel where Carney and other high-profile players had been drinking. Meantime, Clint Newton has undergone scans on his back today after being kneed in the back during Saturday's match. It's unclear if the injury will keep him out of next week's game against the Raiders in Canberra. And Andrew Johns suffered no ill effects from this punch-up with Luke Burt. Joey says the game held plenty of positives for the club and the halfback is full of anticipation for a successful season.
Even off the field, the club's turned itself around and like all clubs, we've really worked hard in the off-season, but we've recruited well. Brian Carney, Luke DeVico, these players come to the club, and our younger guys just a year older, it's a good feeling.
You'd have legs like steel springs too if you ran 200 kilometres a week. That's the training regime Scott Westcott has been maintaining as he focuses all his energy on the prospect of a Commonwealth medal. And for the 30-year-old from Merewether, his games selection caps a childhood ambition.
My very earliest memories was Deke winning the 1982 Commonwealth Games marathon, and since then I've kind of looked up to him as a bit of a role model. So it's kind of great to be emulating his performances in a way.
Originally from Parkes, Scott has represented his country at various world championships and is the current New South Wales 5-kilometre champion. But this is his first Commonwealth Games marathon.
26.1 mile or 42.2 kilometres. It takes me between 2 hours 11 and 2 hours 13, hopefully. And I reckon if I can finish anywhere, within that range in Melbourne, then I should be looking, pretty close to top 5 or even a medal finish.
The Games will be a sporting pinnacle for the high school teacher who started running at the age of 10.
And I'll take part in the opening ceremony. I figured, 90,000 people, yelling and screaming for the Australian team, that's something that I just can't miss out on, and that'll motivate me. Then I'll put my feet up in the village for 3 days and I'll run next Sunday.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.